A single factory ran 24/7 and produced so much it quietly changed the outcome of World War II. Not a weapon, not a secret lab, just a factory. So why did it never stop? Here's the strange part. You could walk right past it and never notice anything unusual. No heavy guards, no hidden entrances, no sense of urgency, just workers going in and out, day after day. And yet, inside, something was happening at a scale so massive, it was bending the direction of an entire war. So how does something so ordinary become that powerful? And more importantly, what happens when it can't stop? At the beginning of the war, everything looked strong. Armies were large, weapons looked advanced, nations felt ready. But underneath that confidence, something was already failing. Quietly. Because wars aren't won by what you build once. They're won by what you can replace. A tank destroyed today needed to be rebuilt tomorrow. A plane shot down in the morning needed to be flying again by next week. And this is where reality hit hard. Factories couldn't keep up, not because they lacked effort, but because they were built for a different world, a slower world, where things were crafted carefully, where parts were adjusted by hand, where time wasn't the enemy. But war changes the rules, and suddenly, time became the most dangerous thing of all. And this is where everything shifted. Instead of asking, how do we build better weapons? They asked something far more dangerous. How do we build without stopping? Not faster, not stronger, endless. That one idea changed everything. Because the moment you remove the idea of stopping, you don't just improve a factory, you turn it into something else, something closer to a living system. Now imagine stepping inside. The noise hits first. Metal striking metal, machines humming, belts moving without pause. The air feels heavy, warm, almost suffocating. And then you notice the workers, hundreds of them. But no one is building a full machine. Not one. One worker drills a single hole, again, and again, and again. Another tightens one bolt. Same motion, endless repetition. Another checks one measurement, over and over, without variation. At first it feels wrong, disconnected, like no one sees the bigger picture. But then, you realize something unsettling. The system doesn't need them to, because the factory itself sees everything. Materials move constantly. Steel enters from one side, finished machines leave from the other. And in between, there is no pause, no reset, no start or end of a day. Because the day never ends. Workers rotate in shifts. But the system, it never sleeps. It doesn't even slow down. It just continues, like a pulse that refuses to stop. But this is where things started to break. The faster they pushed, the more fragile everything became. Not on the battlefield, inside the factory. Parts didn't fit, measurements drifted, machines jammed unexpectedly. And here's the terrifying part. At this scale, small mistakes don't stay small. One tiny error gets copied, again, and again, and again, until suddenly, hundreds of machines are wrong. Maybe thousands. And just like that, the unstoppable system becomes dangerously unstable. So they made a decision, a harsh one. They removed variation, completely. Every part had to be identical, not almost the same, exact, down to the smallest detail, across every worker, every machine, every factory. Which meant changing everything. Tools were redesigned, processes rewritten, movements controlled. Even people had to adapt. Workers weren't encouraged to think creatively anymore. They were trained to be precise, repeatable, predictable. Because in this system, consistency was survival. And slowly, the chaos disappeared. And something else took its place. Rhythm. Now picture this. It's 2:43 a.m. The outside world is completely still. Dark, quiet. But inside the factory, Nothing has changed. A new shift walks in. No announcements, no reset, no preparation. They step directly into motion. Because the system is already running, already producing, already ahead of them. And if they hesitate, even for a few seconds, they fall behind. That's how tight the system had become. But there was a bigger danger. Not inside, outside, in the sky. Enemy bombers. Factories like this were obvious targets. Destroy them. And you don't just slow production, you cripple the war effort. So they adapted. Again. And this is the part most people never hear about. Some factories disguised themselves. From above, they looked like empty land or peaceful farms. Others spread production across multiple buildings, so no single strike could stop everything. And some simply disappeared, moved underground. Entire production lines, buried beneath rock, hidden from sight, but still running, still producing, still unstoppable. But even with all that protection, there was one enemy they couldn't hide from: time. Every delay had consequences. A missing part meant a delayed tank. A delayed tank meant a lost opportunity. A lost opportunity could mean a lost battle. So they started measuring everything. Every second, every movement. How long it took to reach for a tool. How long to place it back. If something took 10 seconds, they asked if it could take 8, then 6, then 5, and they didn't stop. Because this wasn't just about speed anymore. It was about flow. Let's go deeper. Raw materials arrived constantly. Steel, aluminum, rubber. The moment they entered, they were already assigned a path. Not randomly, precisely. Each piece moved step by step. Cutting, pressing, shaping, assembly. Each station had one job. Just one. But it had to be perfect. And fast. Here's what made it powerful. No station worked alone. Each one depended on the next, like a chain. If one slowed down, everything behind it piled up. Everything ahead starved. So balance became everything, not just speed, synchronization. And then came the real breakthrough. They stopped thinking in hours. They started thinking in seconds. Tiny improvements, shaving off moments. But across thousands of steps, those moments became massive. Seconds turned into hours, hours into days, days into machines, and machines started to overwhelm the battlefield. But here's the part most people miss. This system didn't just produce weapons. It produced momentum. Once it reached full speed, it couldn't stop. Stopping meant collapse, confusion, backlogs, failure. So they kept pushing, faster, harder, relentless. And then, it worked. Planes appeared faster than they could be destroyed. Ships were built at impossible speeds. Equipment flooded the front lines. Not perfect, but overwhelming. And that changed everything. Because in war, quantity can become its own kind of power. But here's the twist. There was never just one factory. That's the illusion. What people remember as the factory that never turned off was actually a network. Hundreds of factories, all connected, all synchronized, all feeding into one continuous system. A machine made of machines, spanning entire nations. And yet, no one really saw it. Soldiers didn't think about it. Pilots never noticed it. But every time something broke, a replacement was already coming. Because somewhere, that system was still running, still awake, still producing. And then the war ended. The fighting stopped. The explosions faded. But the system didn't. Because something like that doesn't just disappear, it evolves. It became the world we live in now. 24/7 production, endless supply chains, constant flow of goods. What started as a desperate wartime solution became the foundation of modern industry. So when you think about World War II, you probably imagine battles, explosions, front lines, strategy. But behind all of that was something quieter, more consistent, more unstoppable. A system that never slept, never paused, never gave the enemy time to catch up. And maybe the most unsettling part is this: no single person controlled it. No single moment defined it. It just kept running, in the background, all the time. Because in the end, the war wasn't only fought by soldiers, it was fought by a rhythm, a flow, a machine built from people, steel, and time itself. And once it started, it never truly stopped.